Hello, on behalf of the National Park Service, I'd like to welcome you to the home of Franklin D. Roosevelt National Historic Site. Today we're going to talk about President Roosevelt's 4 freedoms. We see and hear the word freedom regularly. In fact, America is the home of the brave and the land of the free. But how do you define freedom? If you were to do a Google image search for freedom, you would see images of birds flying out of cages and broken chains. The dictionary defines it as several things, including the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint, or the unrestricted use of something, like a dog having freedom of the house. For our purposes today, I want you to think of freedom as the state of not being subject to or affected by a particular undesirable thing. During his 1941 State of the Union address, President Franklin Roosevelt gave a rousing 22-page speech on why the Union is in its present state and how current events are impacting our nation. He asked Congress for their support in preparing the nation to go to war, although he doesn't ask for a declaration of war yet. He talks about supporting our allies and how everyone in the world needs to fight against tyranny to preserve democracy. President Roosevelt plans to do this by raising taxes, but only so that we are better able to arm ourselves and our allies. He wants Americans to increase their production of planes, cars, and warships so that we can barter for resources with our friends overseas. At the very end of the speech on page 20, we finally get to our 4 freedoms. President Roosevelt declares,
"In the future days, which we seek to make secure, we look forward to a world founded upon 4 essential human freedoms. The first is freedom of speech and expression everywhere in the world. The second is freedom of every person to worship God in his own way everywhere in the world. The third is freedom from want, which translated into world terms means economic understanding which will secure to every nation a healthy, peacetime life for its inhabitants everywhere in the world. The fourth is freedom from fear, which translated into world terms means a worldwide reduction of armaments to such a point and in such a thorough fashion that no nation will be in a position to commit an act of physical aggression against any neighbor anywhere in the world. That is no vision of a distant millennium. It is a definite basis for a kind of world attainable in our own time and generation.
These ideas did not go over well with the American public, quite the way the president and his speechwriters thought they would. Perhaps the speech was too long, or maybe the general public was overloaded with all of the information they were trying to understand about what was happening in the world. In 1943, Norman Rockwell felt compelled to create these 4 images of the 4 freedoms. First, we have the freedom of speech. What do you see? What do you notice about the image? Next is the freedom of worship. Tell me what you observe about this work. Third is freedom from want. How does this make you feel? Is this what you pictured when President Roosevelt said freedom from want? Finally, we have Rockwell's freedom from fear. What are some things you notice? What details stand out to you? Now compare all 4 together. What are some similarities, and what do you see in these images? Recall that in 1943, Rockwell did not have a cell phone or Google. He wasn't Snapchatting any of these or posting them on Insta. He wasn't tweeting about them with his friends and family on Twitter. At that time, these images were what he pictured when he read the Four Freedoms. Some people consider them a little outdated, and so in 2018, the Smithsonian looked for a more modern take on what the Four Freedoms looked like in the 21st century. Speech. Defined as the expression of or the ability to express thoughts and feelings by articulate sounds. Worship. The feeling or expression of reverence and adoration for a deity, or to show reverence and adoration for a deity, honor with religious rites. Have you heard these freedoms before today? Maybe a little bit differently worded? I quote, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." First Amendment to the United States Constitution, March 4th, 1789. They are also Articles 19 and 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Want. Have a desire to possess or do something. Wish for. Also to lack or be short of something desirable or essential. There is a difference, however, between making sure that your wants are met and greed. I was always taught to check want and need. I need food, a roof, reliable transportation. Fear. An unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. President Roosevelt talked about a reduction in arms across the world, and Rockwell showed safety and security in a world gone mad. Kevin Lousteau used a candle to illustrate fear in his Four Freedoms, a kinetic statue, on display in the grounds of the Franklin D. Roosevelt Presidential Library and Museum. What are some of the differences and similarities you notice between the 1943 and the 2018 images? Do you think one group or one image does a better job of defining the purpose of the Four Freedoms? Why? Which one? Which one speaks to you? What do you feel looking at these 7 images? You may notice that we didn't include the 2018 Smithsonian representation of freedom from fear. We did this purposely so that you can determine how you would represent it. What would you show in an updated version? How would you represent the freedom from fear? As you consider the world around you today, do you think that these are still the 4 freedoms that should be worked on? Do you think that there are other freedoms we should work on instead or in addition to these original 4? How do you feel knowing that the ideas President Roosevelt talked about in 1941 are still relevant today? President Roosevelt concludes his speech with this.
This nation has placed its destiny in the hands and heads and hearts of its millions of free men and women, and its faith in freedom under the guidance of God. Freedom means the supremacy of human rights everywhere. Our support goes to those who struggle to gain those rights and keep them. Our strength is our unity of purpose to that high concept that can be no end save victory.
Thank you for joining the National Park Service at the home of Franklin D. Roosevelt National Historic Site. Please come back again soon.